really impossible to go through a day without hearing anything about AI. So whether it's in the news or people talking about it, it's no doubt a transformational technology of our time, and that impacts already starting on our everyday lives and society, and it's going to continue to impact hugely. Now, I think in terms of building resilience in this very fast moving technological space, I'm going to quite focus on two aspects, on how business and organization dealing with that, and lots of people thinking about innovation and how they're going to deal with these disruptive technology. And in a second, as a society as a whole, how do we build resilience in the sense of making sure it's a responsible AI, it's a safe technological progress that we're making given all the history before. So I think to start with, maybe actually talking about what's AI. How many people have a very clear sense of what AI is? Well, there's so many different terms on this. I think a very simple way I put it is really a computer program that can do tasks that will appear to be intelligent if done by a human. So that could be facial recognition, recognizing some people's face, speech recognition, or playing chess. So any of these tasks that will, for a human to do, that it's an intelligent task. And then it is really important to think about it as a general technology. So you can see how broad it is, that it's like electricity. It applies to everything. So giving an example how that's now being used, for example, one area we've worked on is with the Home Office on counter-terrorist work, where if you look at all these past recent years, all the terrorist attacks are done by lone radicalized individuals, not necessarily a very organized group attacks. And so how do you then prevent the radicalization of individuals? And here, usually, if you have to look at those materials, which you shouldn't, these propaganda materials is extremely sophisticated. They are studio produced. They're not just one of those that you take a phone and record things. That are very, very carefully thought out and produced, and they could spread on the internet easily, and thousands of them. And how do you then prevent individuals, these videos reaching individuals and then radicalize them? And so that's what AI are very good at, these tasks, is looking at this vast amount of videos and being able to understand the intent, as opposed to this is a propaganda video, as opposed to just a news reporting clip. And so that's one use, already very real, of AI. And then another would be also a video case where online now you could create videos of leaders such as Donald Trump saying anything using something what we call deep fake, which is also based on AI technology. And it could be a real detrimental effect to democracy, because Donald Trump is probably not a good example because he does say all sorts of things, but you certainly don't want a credible leader to say something that isn't real, and people don't necessarily appreciate that these are not real videos, but actually doctored, you could say. And so creating tools to detect when these actually videos are not real, just like, it's been photos being photoshopped, is incredibly important. So here are already some of the uses in AI in the real world. Now, in business, given how fast this space moves, on the innovation, I think a lot of company worries about how they could keep up with it. Whether it's big tech having technology that is going to disrupt industries at all sorts of levels, talking about autonomous cars, for example. But actually, from what we've seen, there are ways that large organizations can really innovate and move progress in this. So I'm thinking, I'm going to give a good success case and a not so success case. So one I would say full of admiration is, for example, a major airline like EasyJet. So about, I think maybe 4 or 5 years ago, their senior leadership of the CEO level, Caroline and all, it's really taking this AI as a technology that they believe is going to bring advantage to their business. And so with that in mind, they have very clear, at the start, they did not have that capability of, despite being very large and technological company to a large extent, they didn't have any of the AI capability. And they really started with just one person and building out the team and very committed to building that capability. And what does that mean? Commitment is, you could see the team building, bringing in the talents from a senior leader, but also the data scientists and all sorts of different skills as well. And they nurture them, they allow them to grow, and more importantly, they really integrate that into their products, from operationally, like looking at staffing, for example. Turns out staffing for aircraft is actually very, very challenging, and you want to make sure you have all the pilots and all the aircraft staff in order to be able to fly an aircraft. So using AI to be able to really making it a more predictable and manage it in a level that is allow them not to have a very high level of backup staff on standby is really important, to making it operationalized. It's like using these AI and thinking that this is something that could really help them is very important. Or looking at food waste. So I think on every aspect they do try to just commit to using AI as a technology to innovate their operations and their products. That's in the private sector, and I think even in the public sector, I think there's some very successful cases where people, make this to work. And I will take the example of the Home Office. Home Office not well known for being innovative, and they tend not to be the poster child of good innovation. And I think, but they have really built that AI capability by necessary needs. If you remember 2015 summer, I think they got a lot of negative press about passports, where it was very, very slow, the process, and then so really exacerbated by that, plus the funding cuts that they constantly sort of getting from the government. They really have to think of what alternative solutions, and then they really look at, okay, this is a passport process. So one of the big challenges is a very manual process. When you get the passport, you've got someone to read it and then deciding what to do about it, whether the visa, and it's a very laborious process. But this is precisely the kind of task that AI would be very, very good at, and they don't need working hours. They just keep going all the time. And so this passport triage is the thing that they really focus. And they didn't start with thinking we need to do a big rollout program. And in fact, even in the previous case of EasyJet, they didn't start off with a big, massive rollout program. They're very focused on working on very concrete problems, and this is the passport triage. And then they use that to build out. And now you could say, the British government, the Home Office, really well leading in using AI for government service, and now they even have 100 data scientists in home office, which I think is a real successful case, and from a small tackle a small concrete problem and grow that capability out. The last part, a slightly shifting of this, is on the responsible AI, because if we think that AI is going to be a very significant technology for us, then the risk it poses is just as significant. And I think with the learning from our internet, all the problems we've experienced, I think we are now more savvy and thinking about this. Now, and I think the AI safety and ethics side of things, it's an interesting one, I have to say, because people have very different opinions. So I want to ask, actually in the audience, how many people are happy that that sentences or decisions in court is done by AI as opposed to a real judge, human judge? How many people say they're happy that an AI to do that? Any show of hands? Very few. Okay. And how about ones that they don't trust the AI to make a good decision? How many people? Quite a lot more. Okay. Well, if you do the same exercise, say in Brazil, you'll have exactly the opposite. You have about 90% of people saying actually AI is much better because there's no corruption and things with that. But this is a very real thing. I think as a society, this is that resilience on how that impacts on every aspect of our society. And I think UK is taking a very, very good approach. They've got the Centre of Data Ethics, and I think it is increasingly on companies and organizations' agenda, but not enough. And I think the questions a lot of people will still have on reliability, on the trust issue, on privacy, and inclusiveness, and all these are very, very real issue that still comes about. And I think, and there are actually solutions, and the fact that even though as a society we talk a lot about that, there are technological solutions. So for example, it is possible to make AI explainable. So that will allow the transparency, the trust, because now you can explain, for example, if you were a financial service or insurance where you use AI, whether to accept a claim or what sort of car premium insurance that you're going to give out, that people do want to know why that answer has come about. And then there are real technological solution to that. It is possible to do the explainable AI. And same as fairness. It is, I mean, for like say a large organization, they easily get millions of CVs, and I think I'll say a lot of surveys say 96% of people very uncomfortable about AI doing the decision as part of a hiring process. But that's because there is it's very unknown about all the biases and fairness that AI algorithm pose. But actually, again, there are solutions. I mean, the reason is because we have our own research lab, and we could see that there is a real possible way to check if the algorithm, the AI model is fair or not, and to even correct it if you want. And then lastly, obviously, the making sure that it's actually reliable, it's robust, it does what it does in the real world. And all these does have technological solution. But the ultimate thing is still beyond just technological solution, because for businesses or organization, the first part they have to do really is to decide what kind of corporate citizen they want to be? Are they going to be the one that take this seriously? So it has to be part of the governance at the very top level of that it should be part of the risk register, that it should be part of the agenda of the board, because only from there then those approach and principles and policy can trickle down to kind of the people working day to day on this, implementing them on products and operationally, because unless they say definitively that we have to make sure that the AI is safe before it can be implemented in the products, then it is still not going to happen. And I think, and that is it's a real opportunity for us at this beginning kind of the stage of a very impactful technology to make that a good provision for. So I think there are ways to move forward, to make sure that the resilience of the society and companies to be prepared for a very disruptive technology.